Arithmetic line graphs or time series graphs. When a set of statistical data are presented on a graph paper, it is called a graph. Presenting the data on a graph paper, we get different points, each point corresponding to a value of a statistical series. By joining the points, we get a line which shows how a variable tends to change. Each point on the line corresponds to an arithmetic value of the variable under study, like, for example, the value of exports or imports. Therefore, a graph showing arithmetic values of a variable on a graph paper is called arithmetic line graph. Often such graphs are constructed to present time series data, that is, the data, like the value of exports or imports, corresponding to different weeks, months or the years. Therefore, arithmetic line graphs are often one construction of a graph. Keeping in mind the size and nature of data, a suitable intersecting point on the graph paper is assumed as a point of origin as point O in the adjacent picture. Horizontal and vertical lines intersecting through this point are shown as bold lines. These bold lines are called axes. Horizontal line from left to right is called horizontal axis, abscissa or x-axis. The line going upward or downward is called vertical axis, ordinate or y-axis. The x-axis and y-axis are mutually perpendicular to each other. These axes divide the plane of the upper. Rules for construction a graph. 1. Heading. 2. Choice of scale. 3. Proportion of axis. 4. Method of plotting the points. 5. Lines of different types. 6. Table of data. 7. Use of false line. 8. To draw. 1. Heading. Every graph must have a suitable and precise heading. Heading must be self-explanatory about the nature of information in the graph. 2. Choice of scale. One should fix an appropriate scale on which data should be presented. An appropriate scale is the one by which the entire data are easily represented by the graph. The graph should be on the middle of the graph paper to make it attractive. 3. Proportion of axis. As far as possible, length of x-axis on the graph paper should be 1.5 times the length of y-axis. 4. Method of plotting the points. Economics and business statistics are generally positive. These are to be presented in the first quadrant. Accordingly, the point of origin is fixed to the left and lower portion of the graph paper. On the x-axis, the points are plotted from left right, and on the y-axis, the points are plotted upward from bottom to top. 5. Lines of different types. If more than one line or curve are to be drawn in the same graph, these lines should be differentiated from each other in the form of broken lines, dash 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 dash, dotted lines, bold lines, dash 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 dash, etc. 6. Table of data. It would be useful to give the table of data along with the graph of the data. 7. Use of false line. If the values in a series are very large and the difference between the smallest value and 0 is high, and if these values are to be indicated on y-axis of the graph, then the y-axis is started somewhere above the point O. 8. To draw a line or curve, we mark different points on the graph paper corresponding to different values of a series. These points are joined to make a line or a curve. The joining line must be uniform throughout its length. It should not be different thickness at its different points. 1. Variable graphs. 1 variable graphs are those graphs in which values of only one variable are shown with respect to some time period. Graphic presentation of the production of a factory between the months of January and June of a year would be one variable graph. 2 or more than variable graphs. These are the graphs in which values of two or more than two variables are simultaneously shown with respect to some period of time. Data on the production and sale of a factory in different months would make a two. General rules for constructing diagrams and graphs. Some of the general rules for constructing diagrams and graphs are as follows. 1. Proper size. Diagrams or graphs must suit the size of the paper. It should be neither too big nor too small. 2. Proper heading. Diagrams or graphs must bear proper heading. A heading determined and indicated. 3. Proper scale. Before making a diagram graph, its scale should be. 4. Use of signs and colors only. Diagrams or graphs must carry some signs on the nature and classification of information. Colors may be used to indicate different aspects of a diagram. These signs and colors must be clarified. 5. Less use of words or figures. In diagrammatic or graphic presentation of data, one should make minimum possible use of the words and figures. 6. Drawing the border. Diagrams or graphs must be 7. Simple. Simplicity is the principal feature of diagrams and graphs. These should not look to be complex and offending. 8. From left to right or bottom to top. The construction of diagrams graphs should flow from left to right or from bottom to the top. 9. Statement of data. Data which constitute the basis of diagrams graphs should be clearly stated. 10. Attractive and effective. Diagrams and graphs must be attractive and effective in communicating. Merits of diagrammatic and graphic presentation. Notable merits of diagrammatic and graphic presentation are as under. 1. Simple and understandable information. Even the most complex statistical information is made simple and understandable with the help of diagrams and graphs. One can understand the features of data merely by having a look at the picture. 2. Lasting impact. Diagrammatic or graph. 3. No need of training or specialized knowledge. One needs no training or specialized knowledge in reading the diagrams and graphs. These are easily understood even by a layman. 4. Attractive and effective means of presentation. Diagrams and graphs are very attractive and effective means of presenting data. It is rightly said that. 5. A quick comparative glance. Diagrams graphs facilitate a comparative glance at the data. Thus, data on investment in private and public sectors, when presented in the form of, say, bar diagrams, can easily compared. One can easily note the bold differences between the two. 6. Informative and entertaining. Besides being informative, diagrammatic or graphic presentation is an entertaining means of data presentation. The beginners are. 7. Location of averages. Using graphic technique, we can easily locate the values of certain averages, such as mode and median. 8. Study of correlation. Graphic presentation of data corresponding to different variables helps identify correlation between the variables. For example, if time series data on income and expenditure are degree of positive correlation between the two variables. Higher level of income is very likely. Limitations of diagrammatic and graphic presentation. 1. Limited use. Only a limited set of data can be presented in the form of a diagram. In fact, diagrams and graphs are generally used only when comparisons are involved or when time series data are to be presented. 2. Misuse. Diagrams may be misused for false projection of the statistical facts, especially in case of advertisements. 3. Only preliminary conclusions. It may not be always easy to arrive at final conclusions after seeing the diagrams. Multiple